Welcome back for a new special top 5 list. Of course, as always, this is Goku-san DBZ. Now, with that said, today I'm just listing off, in my humble opinion, 5 of the all-time worst game consoles ever made. Looking at quality now, personally, I have played 3 of the top 5, plus there's one dishonorable mention, so a total of 6 to mention. These are consoles that are considered by many definitely stuff that is better left forgotten. And speaking of 3 of these, I can personally vouch for trying as demos at whether it be back in the day at Hill's department store, which some of you may or may not have known of, as well as at Kmart and Toys R Us back in different times in my life. But predominantly, we're looking at stuff mostly from the 90s, because that's when there was a much bigger variety of competition in handheld and regular home consoles. So, with that said, first the dishonorable mention, which is one I have personally never tried, though it was known for having many malfunctions and sometimes the console having major problems. Also, is considered to be one of the absolute worst game consoles of all time when it comes to actual game controllers. Besides, considered the worst console of the name. Dishonorable mention goes to the Atari 5200, which by many is considered to be the worst Atari console of all time. We have the classic, the Atari, of course, 2600, which is beloved by many, and many people feel of the regular era of Atari, the 7800 by many is considered to be the best. Given it was also backwards compatible with Atari 2600 games, it would really be the first home console to really offer backwards compatibility, which was definitely a good thing in the price domain. But yeah, the Atari 5200 is by far considered the worst Atari console of all time, especially with so many technical issues it would have. First up at number 5, it was a handheld back in the late 90s. Nokia would become known briefly, would try to get their hand into the handheld gaming market. And this is the first of the 3 devices I have personally tried. I tried demos of it back at Hill's department store. I believe it was around like 98 or so. But yeah, it was called the Nokia N-Gage. Now, I will say the N-Gage had pretty nice actual game cases for handhelds back in the day. I will say it was the first handheld really that would offer plastic cases for their games, and I think that was a definite positive. One of the only positives I can give. For the most part, the N-Gage was horrible. It was considered to also offer like the ability to talk to people like a mobile phone. I mean, it really was tried to do some things that were definitely advanced for the time period when it would be released, but unfortunately, the technology wasn't really quite there yet. For some of the stuff that the Nokia N-Gage would try to offer, it would definitely be a horrible handheld to play. Speaking with again to actually try it, yeah, I don't recommend anybody ever trying to collect. The N-Gage today is quite pricey to collect because of its rarity and because of so many technical issues. A lot of them would stop working relatively soon, within a few years, so it's hard to find one that is actually in good working order, so the prices are in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And some of the games can be quite pricey as well, given it didn't have exactly a big library of games. Next up, coming in at number 4, is definitely infamous for having arguably the worst Zelda games of all time, as well as many other things, like a really bad also Mario game and stuff. Now, I personally look back how people tried to compare the Panasonic 3DO with this console, and I felt that was really an insult to the 3DO, which I personally consider a underrated console. This is a piece of crap. Coming at number 4 is the Philips Cdi, which was more or less just really a tech demo type thing, and mostly had videos, stop motion stuff you could watch. Basically, for the most part, it had no real legitimate game offerings on the console as a whole. Yeah, sure, if you want those really weird and obscure Zelda games, be my guest. They're quite pricey, and good luck finding a well, or rather a good shape, good working Philips CDI, which can run you several $100s to upwards of $1,000 now. Which it was always expensive, like the 3DO. The difference is the 3DO at least had some actual good, solid game offerings, such as Road Rash, such as Miss, or generate games like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or heck, Wolfenstein 3D, and many other great games, as well as Alone in the Dark. There were actually some legitimate good games on 3DO, but for, yeah, the Philips CDI, definitely not. It's a piece of crap, let's be honest. Coming in number 3 is something I would actually try a demo at one time or another, which is really weird, I'll say that. Coming at number 3, which was known to give people headaches from time to time, so it's no surprise there. But coming at number 3 is, of course, the Nintendo would be the last device made for Nintendo by, of course, the great Gunpei Yokoi, before he would leave and get a job with Bandai and create the Bandai WonderSwan. But that would be, of course, the flop that is the Nintendo Virtual Boy, which only had a small handful of actual game releases. I believe, actually, just 20 some games, I think, less than 30 actual games would get released here in America. Now, there are a few games that some people consider good and should get re-released, remastered, remade on modern platforms. I can kind of see where some people come from. Personally, I only played ever in the demo and stuff 2 games on the Virtual Boy. I played a basic Wario game, which actually I thought was kind of fun, and then a tennis game, which actually wasn't bad either. I'll be honest, either of the 2 demos I played, I thought were not bad. Compared to the Nokia N-Gage, surprisingly, the Virtual Boy didn't bother me one bit, though the black and red would really mess with you. Once you play it a little while, you would start getting a headache because the color scheme and everything. That's one of the drawbacks, but personally, my own personal experience, I thought the Virtual Boy was okay, but yeah, is arguably considered really bad, and quite a reason why it wouldn't even sell 1,000,000 units. Heck, the Philips CDI sold better than the Virtual Boy. Coming at number 2 is a device I'm not sure if I ever want to play, because boy, do I remember reviews from the great Lord Carnage, also known as Mark of Classic Game Room, did several videos on this, and that is the Tiger R Zone, coming at number 2 worst. It's technically more of just a head thing with a weird controller attached, and it kind of reminds you of the power reader, or rather energy readers, that the Saiyans and Friesen then would wear. But not so fun. From everything I've heard and seen in reviews, not to mention one person I knew at one time who owned one, they absolutely despised and tried to get reimbursed their money back. If that says it, now this R-Zone is starting to go for some money nowadays. On average, on trending on eBay now, it's trending for close to $100 now for the R-Zone. And for a time there, back several years ago, you could have picked it up for about $10 to $15. But now, it started going up since more retro YouTubers have started talking more about the R-Zone, or rather Tiger R-Zone. Coming at number 1 is one I can personally say I have played. I tried it when it was demoed at Toys R Us before it closed. Rest in peace, Toys R Us. But this was arguably the slowest loading, and such a horrible... It had an interesting gimmick idea that you could wave cards on like specifically a X-Men fighting game. You could wave a card over it, it would scan the card and then unlock the character. But the load times would make the infamous slow loading Neo Geo CD look good in comparison. I can't even describe how slow the loading is on this. Coming at number one, by far the worst console of all time I can honestly vouch that I have actually played, and it's a piece of crap, and you can still find these things dirt cheap with multiple games included easily for like $50. No problem. Which says even people who are interested in collecting even bad stuff, which is the reason why stuff like the Philips Cdi is expensive, the Nokia N-Gage, the Virtual Boy, and the Tiger R Zone starting to go up. But even this, you can honestly say it's not skyrocketing in price. And that is, coming at number one, worst in my opinion, is the Hyperscan. Arguably the worst game console of all time. And if you think I'm joking, look up videos from Classic Game Room as well as other YouTubers that have actually tried to Hyperscan, and you will see how bad it is. Just look at gameplay that Lord Carnage did back in the day on Classic Game Room of the actual X-Men 3D Fine game or whatever, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how bad the load times are, and how bad the graphics, gameplay, and given this was released in like the 2000s, is what even makes it worse. It looks like something from like the early or mid 90s, and cheap even by those standards. I mean, the 3DO puts it to shame in comparison graphically and capabilities. I mean, honestly, I would much rather play the Virtual Boy, in all honesty, than most of the things on this list. But I see where people are coming from. But with that said, that is it. That is just from personal experience, at least half of them. But that is 5 of the absolute worst game consoles of all time. Though that includes handheld with the Nokia N-Gage. But seriously, look some of this stuff up. You might be surprised. But with that said, in the near future, I am going to be doing a top 5 list. I'm sure that will not be popular with some people, for it is, looking back at, in my personal opinion, 5 of the most overrated game consoles of all time, or basically gaming in general. So with that said, stay safe, have a good rest of November and a good holiday season. Just stay safe, everyone, and stay sane. And I'll see y'all next time, and hopefully enjoyed the music in the background I chose today. This is from the YouTube channel Retro Player 1. If you're curious in the music, also you can hear some of this music in the Dead Mall series done by Dan Bell. But anyways, I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.